Ces membres-là ont pris beaucoup d'intérêt quand M. Carney a annoncé
took a lot of interest when Mr. Carney announced that he would deliver a speech to young people with a message for young people.
Malgré le fait qu'il a répété les mêmes promesses
Despite the fact that he repeated the same broken promises, that he was going to change a lot of things, as we've heard before, there was little else beyond the broken promises that he repeated and repeated. There was nothing special and new in that speech. He asked our young people to make more sacrifices and to wait longer. How can that be? Mr. Carney, our young people are doing nothing more than sacrificing after 10 years of the Liberal government. The cost of housing has doubled, and this is preventing our young people from being able to buy their own homes. Families and young families cannot settle down because they have no space to do so. Food is becoming more expensive, so young people need to cut down what they're eating. It's affecting their health. Car costs are rising, so they cannot buy the car of their choice. And we're seeing young people losing their jobs. Unemployment numbers among young people are the worst in a generation. In the 10 years of the Liberal government, our young people were deprived of the opportunity to have a beautiful home, and now depriving these young people from having a job. Things would not be as bad if Mr. Carney would simply acknowledge that the current young generation is going through a situation that is much worse than previous generations. That would at least be being honest. But he's making exactly the same Liberal policies that caused this degradation in the quality of life for our young people. He is continuing to double the deficit, which is driving inflation up. Inflation hits young people harder because they don't have assets that can protect their wealth. They live paycheck to paycheck, paychecks that are losing their buying power. Young people who do not have homes. The dream of owning a home is becoming further and further away. Mr. Carney could have simply been honest and said, yes, things are worse now. But he went even further by keeping in place exactly the same policies that the Liberal government has applied for the last 10 years. They're making the situation worse and making life more desperate for our young people. It was a depressing speech. Saying that life was going to become even worse for our young people. What a lack of hope at a time when young people and all people need hope. So I have a message for young Canadians. You don't need to live like this. You should have hope. The hope of one day owning a home that is your own, a job with a powerful paycheck, and money that can buy a good quality of life. You should know that you're safe on your streets and not fear crime. These are things that we took for granted before this Liberal government. We Conservatives will continue to offer that hope. That is why a large number of young people, probably the largest in history, voted for Conservatives because we give young people hope. Hope because we will eliminate taxes on home construction. We'll bring taxes down so that your paychecks will go farther. We'll eliminate and cut inflationary debt to protect the value of our currency. We will unlock our economy. and provide an economy that favors those who work hard and not just those who are connected to the government. We will unlock our natural resources for big paychecks in the trades, and we will support the trades because we need people who build, transport, repair, and dig for the projects we require for our future. It's a beautiful future that will bring back opportunity for everyone who works hard. That's the opportunity that we stand behind, and that's what we will do as conservatives. After Mr. Carney's depressing speech, the message of sacrifice that he pushed on our young people, we conservatives have decided to launch a new campaign with young people. We'll be speaking to universities and youth groups and apprentices across Canada. We want to engage them in an unprecedented way in the political system. Our young people need to take back control of their future. Our youth need to bring back the dream of Canada, that everybody who works hard can have a beautiful life with an affordable home on safe streets, affordable food, and create families in peace. That is the goal of our Conservative team. I'd now like to pass the floor to Pierre Poilievre to share the experience of young people in his region.
Merci, chef. Bonjour tout le monde.
Thank you.
Le premier mot qui m'est venu en tête hier quand j'ai
The first word I thought of yesterday when I heard the speech was surrealistic. It's surrealistic to have a prime minister address young people at the University of Ottawa and tell them, what you've gone through is nothing. It's going to be even worse in the future. That's the message that we take from Mark Carney's speech yesterday. And before that, I was with university directors in Quebec and meeting with Conservative colleagues to talk about the future. We talked about university campuses and studies and going even further. But what we heard an hour later was the Prime Minister say that there needs to be more sacrifice. In the last few years, young people have said that things are so expensive, rent, homes. But my son will be 22, and he asked me, how am I going to buy a home? I work hard, and I'm trying to save, but it's going to be more expensive. So we don't see an end to that. And that's the reality for young people. And we need a Prime Minister who would give them hope, as Pierre Poilievre did. Rather, the Prime Minister says, you are going to suffer. So we Conservatives, and as the Quebec Lieutenant, myself and my colleagues, we will continue to meet with young people and tell them, have hope. Have hope, because one day we will be the government and we will take measures that will ensure that your life will get better, costs will come down, and our government will spend less and bring the deficit down. So having a pessimistic speech like Mr. Carney's, we will be optimistic instead.
Thank you very much, Pierre, for being here. I wanted to respond today to Mark Carney's big, hyped-up speech to Canadian youth. So we brought some people here who do qualify. Come on, let's get somebody in here who's young enough to be youth. Although Pierre is the George Clooney of our caucus, so he's forever young. And we have Sandra Cabina, who's much younger than I am, and she will be sharing some of the stories of the many young people she encounters in her constituency. When we heard about this speech, we watched it with great interest because of how much misery and suffering our young people have endured over the last decade of liberal inflation, crime, and chaos. And so we were looking for Mr. Carney to reverse course on all of these policies. So what did we find out? Well, first of all, we got the normal buffet of broken promises and buzzwords. There was lots of talk about catalyzing this and catalyzing that. There was a new promise about doubling exports to non-U.S. markets, all while he refuses to even support the one single thing that would actually export more of our resources to those markets. He's still not stating his support for an oil pipeline to the Pacific, nor has he gotten any projects underway that would achieve any of these things. So there was the normal repetition of already broken promises with a lot of fancy million-dollar words. But there were two things that were different. One, I give Mr. Carney credit for being honest with young people. He went on at length about how much worse life is for today's youth than it was when he was young. And he's right about that. This is the first generation in Canadian history that cannot afford home ownership. This has never happened before. It happened after 10 years of Liberal government, doubled housing costs, giving us the worst housing inflation in the G7, causing housing to rise about 50% higher than it is south of the border. So it is true that now is the worst time, probably in the post-war period. You will not find another period in our history when it has been worse to be a young person. I credit him for that. But instead of saying, given that things are so bad, we Liberals are going to reverse course on all of the policies of inflation, of blocking home building, of standing in the way of resource projects. Instead of that, he asked young people to make more sacrifices. This was the sacrifice speech to Canadian youth. And he said it's going to take lots of time to reverse all the damage. Mr. Carney, our youth have sacrificed enough. All they have done for the last 10 years is sacrifice. They are living in their parents' basement well into their 30s. Their rent has roughly doubled. And in fact, the most recent inflation data says that it's up another 4%. The purchasing power of their paychecks are down. More of their money goes to taxes than into food, clothing, and shelter combined. They are no longer safe on their streets after Liberal bail has unleashed crime and chaos everywhere. And I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to acknowledge one young person who tragically lost her life to Liberal bail just this week. Savannah Kula, 29-year-old mother of 4, murdered by an offender out on Liberal bail. Another example of the chaos this government is unleashing in our communities. But instead of acknowledging all of those sacrifices and promising to reverse them, Mr. Carney doubles down on all the policies that caused them. The inflationary deficits that were left behind by the previous Liberal government, he's doubled them. He's increased spending on bureaucracy and consultants, all of which is driving inflation up even higher than it was before he took office. In fact, food price inflation is almost double the Bank of Canada's target, which means our young people are now forced to downgrade their diets and line up at food banks. We see paychecks are now under attack. While the first 10 years of Liberal government deprived our youth of home ownership, now it's depriving them of jobs. Youth employment numbers are now the worst in a generation as the government blocks jobs with high taxes and anti-development laws and allows multinational corporations to give those jobs away to the temporary foreign worker program, meaning countless young people are not able to even find a paycheck, let alone a place to live. My message to Canadian youth is this: you have sacrificed enough under this Liberal government. You don't have to live like this. We can turn the hurt of the last decade into the hope of the future, and we have a plan to do it. That plan will unlock free enterprise so that you get ahead through your hard work and entrepreneurship, not through political connections. By lowering income taxes, you'll keep more of your hard-earned paycheck. By getting rid of inflationary deficit spending, those dollars you earn, they will once again go further and preserve their value. We will clear the bureaucracy and taxes so that builders can build homes that you can afford. And we will get the federal government out of the way to build mines so that the private sector can build mines, pipelines, ports, and countless other major projects that will create $2,000 a year jobs for our young trades workers right across this country. And you will live in safety because we will scrap Liberal bail. We will lock up serious criminals. We will restore the best immigration system in the world that is based on common sense. That is how we will restore the promise to which you are entitled, which your ancestors all enjoyed. You deserve it. Your suffering today is not your fault. It was imposed on you by your Liberal government. But we can change these things. We can build the brighter future. And that is the hopeful message that I hope that you will join us in delivering and bringing to bear. Thank you. Go ahead.
You know, when I was a teenager, and if I wanted to find a job, all you had to do was show up with a good attitude, put in a job application, said your please and thank you, and by the end of the weekend, you were able to find a job. But I was just speaking to a teenager from my riding over the summer, and he told me that he was looking for a job all summer long. His entire summer was spent looking for a job. So searching for a job was his full-time job. And he was still left empty-handed by the end of the summer. Mark Carney has never sacrificed or struggled the same way that young people have today. You know, I was just at the University of Toronto last week, and I spoke to a room full of students. And one of them came up to me after the event and said, finding a job feels like winning the lottery. This is the result of 10 years of this Liberal government. And Mark Carney decides to double down on the very policies, the very same disastrous Trudeau-era policies that got us into this mess. My message to young people is this: it doesn't have to be this way.